The police report says I murdered 4 of my closest friends. But the part that keeps me awake at night, the part that makes me question my own mind, is that our dead friend Matthew warned us it would happen 2 hours after he died. 6 of us had rented that cabin, a crooked, aging place buried deep in the woods where the road eventually just stopped. The plan was simple: celebrate Matthew's birthday with a stupid amount of alcohol, a roaring bonfire, and the kind of dumb stories you only tell when you're far away from civilization. But 2 hours before we arrived, Matthew's car wrapped itself around a highway divider, and just like that, he was gone. The news hit us while we were halfway there. No one spoke for nearly 20 minutes. Eventually, someone said we should turn around, but the cabin was already paid for. Everyone had driven for hours, and somehow, it felt wrong to abandon the place we had planned for him. So, we stayed. We told ourselves it would be a memorial weekend, drink in his name, laugh in his name, pretend, just for a little while, that death hadn't just ripped someone out of our group. That first night, we built a fire outside the cabin. The woods were too quiet, the kind of silence that makes you constantly check behind your shoulder. Pine trees stood around us like tall black silhouettes, and the flames threw strange shadows across our faces. Everyone was drinking heavily, maybe to cope, maybe to forget, when Tyler's phone suddenly buzzed on the wooden table beside him. He picked it up, squinted at the screen, and frowned. "That's weird," he muttered. "It's from Matthew." For a moment, we just stared at him, confused. Then he turned the phone toward us. A single message glowed on the screen. "Don't trust the one sitting closest to the fire." For half a second, nobody spoke. Then someone burst out laughing. We assumed it had to be a delayed message, something Matthew had typed earlier that finally sent once his phone connected to signal. Dark humor, we thought. Something he'd find hilarious if he was still alive. But then another text came. The phone buzzed again, sharp, sudden, and Tyler's smile faded. This time the message read, "Ryan will stand up in 5 seconds." We all turned toward Ryan instinctively, and he immediately stood up. "I need another drink," he said, walking toward the cooler behind us. A strange ripple of laughter moved through the group, nervous laughter, the kind people make when something feels slightly wrong. Someone joked that Matthew must have scheduled a bunch of creepy birthday messages, but a few seconds later, another buzz cut through the air. Someone is about to spill their beer. We barely had time to react before Jessica bumped her elbow and knocked her bottle straight onto the wooden deck. Beer splashed everywhere. The laughter stopped. Completely. Tyler refreshed the message thread slowly, like he was afraid the phone might bite him. "Okay. That's weird," he whispered. The fire crackled loudly beside us, suddenly the only sound in the forest. We started theorizing. Maybe someone hacked Matthew's phone. Maybe it was some sick prank. Maybe the messages were pre-written. But before we could settle on an explanation, another text arrived. This one made the air feel colder. "Someone here already knows how this weekend ends." The words sat there on the glowing screen, heavy, accusing. I remember looking around the fire, 6 faces illuminated in flickering orange light, and for the first time that night, everyone looked like a stranger. We tried to ignore it after that. We drank more. We turned on music. We convinced ourselves it was just technology being weird, phones glitching, messages delayed, nothing supernatural. Eventually, people drifted off to their rooms inside the cabin. I woke up the next morning to the sound of someone screaming outside. Real screaming. the kind that rips straight out of your chest. I ran out behind the cabin with the others, and that's where we found Tyler. His body was lying beside the trees, twisted on the ground. His throat had been cut so deeply that the grass beneath him was dark, almost black. Panic exploded instantly. Jessica was crying hysterically. Ryan kept shouting that someone must have broken into the woods during the night. We called the police, but there was no signal. Not enough to place a full call, just weak, useless bars blinking in the corner of our phones. Then, unbelievably, Tyler's phone buzzed where it had fallen beside the table from the night before. None of us wanted to touch it. Finally, I stepped forward and picked it up. A new message from Matthew glowed on the screen. First one had to happen. My stomach dropped so violently I thought I might pass out. After that, the texts kept coming. Each message described something terrible, and it always happened exactly as written. One message predicted Jessica slipping on the wet rocks near the river behind the cabin. An hour later, she did, and struck her head so hard she never woke up again. Another text appeared late that night. Ryan will bleed out before sunrise. We locked the doors, checked every window, searched every room for an intruder. But sometime around 4 in the morning, we found him in the kitchen, collapsed on the floor with a deep stab wound in his side. No one had heard anything. No broken windows, no forced entry. Just Ryan, lying there, slowly going pale. By the third day, only 2 of us were left alive. Me and my best friend, Thomas. We sat inside the cabin, staring at each other across the dining table, while rain hammered against the windows outside. Neither of us trusted the other anymore. Not after the messages. Not after the deaths. The phone buzzed again, and this time we both flinched violently. I picked it up with shaking hands. The message was shorter than the others. Check the phone records. Thomas looked at me like I had just been handed a loaded gun. Do it, he instructed. My fingers moved slowly across the screen, opening Matthew's account, scrolling through the timestamps. And that's when something impossible revealed itself. The messages weren't being sent from Matthew's phone. They were scheduled. Every single one of them had been programmed weeks before his death. Exact timestamps, exact wording, every horrifying prediction lined up perfectly in advance. My throat went dry as I scrolled through the list. There were dozens of them, stretching across the entire weekend. The final message sat at the bottom, already queued to send later that night. I opened it with trembling fingers. The screen lit up with a sentence that made my entire body feel numb. Don't worry, he won't remember doing it. I stared at those words for what felt like minutes, unable to understand them. Then Thomas slowly stood up. Remember what? He asked quietly. But something about the way he said it, the way his eyes studied my face, made a terrible realization begin crawling up my spine. I suddenly felt dizzy, like pieces of my memory were missing. Entire chunks of the night before, just blank. I tried to recall what had happened after we searched the cabin, but my mind only returned static. Thomas's gaze dropped to something behind me. I followed it, slowly, toward my backpack lying on the floor beside the chair. The zipper was slightly open. Thomas stepped forward and pulled it apart carefully. For a moment, he didn't say anything. His face just drained of color. Then he reached inside and pulled out a kitchen knife, the same one that had been missing from the drawer that morning. The blade was still stained dark, dried, unmistakable. My heart started hammering violently. I don't understand, I whispered. Thomas backed away from me slowly, horror spreading across his face like a shadow. "The messages," he said. "They weren't warnings. They were instructions." The phone buzzed one final time in my hand. A new message from Matthew appeared. "The last one dies tonight." Here I am, sitting in the silence that followed that final message, trying to piece together what I am, or what I've become. The worst part isn't that all of my friends died that night. It's that I can't remember doing any of it. My mind feels hollow in places. And those messages, those damn messages, they won't leave me alone. Like they're trying to remind me of something I'm not supposed to forget. So now I'm asking you, because I genuinely don't know anymore. Do you think I was the one behind all of this? Or was there someone else in that cabin with us? Watching, waiting, planning with such perfection, and making sure I'd never remember.
Thanks for sipping tonight's tale with Haunted Brew. Don't forget to subscribe, and sleep tight if you still can.